Welcome to another new episode. Like always, today we are here with an exciting topic that will put your knowledge. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into the main discussion.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking something you literally hear about on the news every single day, and we're going to make it super simple by breaking it down using everyone's favorite commodity, candy. Picture this. Last year, your $1 weekly allowance bought you exactly 2 of your absolute favorite candy bars. But today, you walk into the local store, slap down that exact same $1 bill, and the cashier hands you just 1 candy bar. Wait, what is going on? Did the candy shrink? Did you do something wrong? No way. You've just run headfirst into one of the most powerful and mysterious invisible forces in our entire economy. Right, so economists call this inflation. At its core, inflation is just an increase in the average price of goods and services in terms of money. Now, fun fact. Originally, this term just referred to an increase in the actual money supply itself, like literally printing more cash, which we'd call monetary inflation. But today, it basically just means the average price tag on everything you buy is going up. So here's the really crucial point to take away. When the general price level rises across the board, every single unit of your currency buys fewer goods and services. Your single dollar just doesn't stretch like it used to. This means the actual purchasing power of your money shrinks. It's not that the candy became this inherently super valuable luxury item overnight, it's that your dollar literally became less powerful. Now, to track this shrinking power, economists don't just sit around looking at candy prices, obviously. We have to look at a price index, typically the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. I like to think of the CPI as this giant, annualized store receipt for a massive, imaginary shopping basket of stuff that people buy every single day. We check this mega receipt to measure the inflation rate, the annualized percentage change, so we can see exactly how much prices are shifting across the whole economy over time. All right, let's jump into Section 1. Why did the candy price jump? Let's look at the forces behind inflation. Because look, prices don't just magically float upwards. They change because someone or something is pulling specific economic levers. Inflation can be triggered by a few things. First, increases in the money supply. Second, sudden swings in real demand, which economists call demand shocks. Third, changes in available supplies, known as supply shocks. And lastly, it can also happen when central banks significantly decrease interest rates, or honestly, just when our own expectations about future inflation change. Okay, let's translate all that jargon back to our 5-year-old story. Think of it like this. Step 1, if every kid in town suddenly gets a much bigger allowance, well, that's an increase in the money supply. You've got way more money chasing the exact same amount of candy. Step 2, let's say a wildly popular trend makes everyone want the exact same piece of candy overnight. Boom, demand shock. Or Step 3, the local candy factory breaks down and there's just way less candy to go around. That's your supply shock. Any of these scenarios will inevitably cause prices to shoot straight up. And then there's this wildly fascinating psychological twist. Sometimes just the pure expectation that prices are going to rise in the future can be totally self-fulfilling. Think about it. If everyone in town believes candy is going to cost $2 next week, what do? They all rush to buy it today for $1. But that massive, sudden surge in demand actually forces the price up to $2 right now. The expectation literally makes the inflation happen even faster. Which brings us to Section 2, the bad news about prices, or as I like to call it, when your piggy bank loses its magic. So, if you just hoard your allowance in a piggy bank during a period of rapid inflation, you are actually taking a pretty huge financial hit. Economists point out that there is a massive opportunity cost to holding on to cash like this. Because while your money just sits there in the dark, physically unchanged, its purchasing power is actively eroding. By the time you finally smash that piggy bank open, your savings will buy significantly less than they would have on the day you dropped the coins in. And on a larger scale, this dynamic creates a ton of uncertainty across the real economy. It makes it incredibly hard to save. It forces workers to constantly beg for a bigger allowance, essentially engaging in risky wage negotiations just to keep their heads above water and stop their purchasing power from eroding between contracts. It can even make labor markets look artificially tight, meaning it looks like businesses are rapidly hiring, but they're really just replacing people who had to jump ship for higher pay. So it incentivizes workers to switch jobs unnecessarily, all while average real wages are actually dropping. And frankly, all this chaos fundamentally discourages long-term investment. It gets worse, though. It can actually lead to empty shelves. We literally see shortages of goods as consumers begin hoarding out of concern that prices will increase in the future. I mean, if kids think candy will be completely unaffordable tomorrow, they're going to buy out the entire store today, right? Which causes massive, immediate shortages for everyone else. Let's look at the flip side in Section 3, the surprising silver lining. Why a little inflation is actually good. Okay, I know shrinking allowances, hoarding, and empty shelves sound absolutely awful. But surprisingly, a little bit of inflation is actually a really good thing. It encourages us to lend and invest our money to grow it rather than just burying it in a piggy bank or stuffing it under a mattress. It gives central banks the freedom they need to carry out monetary policy. And crucially, it keeps us safely away from the absolute nightmare that is deflation. Deflation is a decrease in general price levels. And let me tell you, it creates entirely different, messy economic inefficiencies that can bring growth to a complete and utter standstill. This whole thing also perfectly illustrates a really vital concept called nominal wage rigidity. Think about it for a second. It is nearly impossible to convince people to take a pay cut. People absolutely hate seeing their actual paycheck shrink. But if prices just rise slightly while we just stay exactly the same, businesses can adjust their labor costs without ever directly slashing paychecks. It sounds a little sneaky, but this subtle adjustment mechanism actually helps reduce overall unemployment in the broader economy. Let's see who manages all this in Section 4, the Bank's Balancing Act, the managers of our economy. So, who exactly is making sure the price of our proverbial candy doesn't just spiral entirely out of control while we're trying to enjoy these positive benefits? Well, today, most economists favor a Goldilocks approach. The just right target is a low and steady rate of inflation. We don't want zero or negative inflation, deflation, because, like we said, that completely stalls the economy. And we definitely don't want wildly high inflation, because that totally destroys our purchasing power. We just want that perfect middle ground, low and steady. Hitting this low and steady target is an absolute game changer. It prevents scary economic recessions by enabling the labor market to adjust quickly when it needs to. It stops what economists call liquidity traps, which is basically when people get so spooked they stop spending entirely and freeze the whole economy. And it helps us avoid all those heavy punishing costs of high inflation we talked about earlier. Simply put, it keeps our entire candy market and the real economy nice, stable, and predictable. Now, the monumental task of actually keeping things low and stable is handed over to central banks. You can kind of think of them as the ultimate parents managing the rules of the household. They control monetary policy primarily through two big methods. Step 1, adjusting interest rates, which makes borrowing money either cheaper or more expensive. And Step 2, carrying out open market operations. Together, these two tools act as the master thermostat for our entire economy. So, putting it all together, understanding how our metaphorical allowance interacts with inflation really helps us see the big picture. We've looked at how prices rise, the hidden dangers of keeping all your cash stuffed in a piggy bank, and the surprising hidden benefits of a gently growing economy, which leaves us with one totally critical question to wrap up this explainer. Knowing that a low and steady rise in prices is exactly what central banks are aiming for year after year, is your piggy bank ready for next year?
How did you like today's discussion? If you have any questions about this topic, don't forget to let me know in the comment. Stay well, stay healthy.